guys, and welcome back to a new Dawn. I am Dawn, and today we're gonna talk about keeping secrets. So if you're new here, thank you for tuning in, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. As you guys know, I use my platform to talk about my personal experiences with domestic abuse, domestic violence, digital stalking, and being a survivor of domestic abuse. These are very hard conversations to have. I think they're important conversations to continue to have. I have, over the last couple of weeks, gotten a lot of positive feedback from my viewers, so thank you guys so much. I know I cannot save the world, but I do believe in sharing my testimony, so I'm going to continue to do that. But I'm also getting some feedback from my friends and my family members, people who are really the closest to me, right? People who care about me the most, who are expressing to me that, wow, they just didn't know. I wanted to use today to kind of talk about that, right? Hence, keeping secrets. So let's just get into it. So guys, for me, I never wanted to keep it a secret from my family. I never wanted to keep what I was dealing with a secret from my friends, right? But I was embarrassed, and that's really the best way I could describe it. I was so embarrassed. I could not believe that I, in my 40s, found myself in this lousy, toxic situation, right? You never think it's gonna happen to you. In no way am I blaming myself, and in no way will I ever blame a victim. It's not your fault. It wasn't my fault that someone treated me badly. It wasn't my fault that someone disrespected me. The only thing that I could do is be accountable for my role that I played in it. And with that, I think I just didn't get out sooner. I knew it was a bad situation. I knew I was in a bad spot. I probably should not have ignored the red flags. I let a lot of stuff slide that I normally would not have done. And I liked him. Did I love him? I don't think so. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I ever loved him, but I did like him. And at the time I was with him, I hadn't been with anybody. So there was a level of loneliness. I was looking for somebody to spend some time with, and it just turned into a relationship. And in the beginning, it was okay. In my last video, I did talk about 3 very significant incidences that happened right in the beginning of our relationship. We lived in Dallas for 1 year before we moved to Houston, and then we were in Houston for 4 years, so a 5-year relationship altogether. I always would say after the fact, right, that we didn't have any problems when we were in Dallas, that everything was fine. It wasn't. I mean, I was for sure keeping a secret. It wasn't, but it wasn't terrible. And I think in my mind at the time, because it wasn't terrible, again, I just let it slide, right? I had somebody to hang out with. I had somebody to spend some time with. I wanted a family, so I thought I had somebody that I could do that with, right? It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. We never really had the honeymoon phase. Like, it was never where I felt head over heels behind this guy. In my mind at the time, I don't think I was intentionally keeping a secret from my family and my friends, but it was kind of like I just wanted to keep some things to myself, you know? It wasn't a perfect situation, and I just didn't really want to speak on it until I knew exactly where I was going with it, I guess. You know, in hindsight, it don't make no sense to me. And yeah, I just use that broken English because that's really how I feel. In hindsight, it didn't make no sense. It didn't make no fucking sense. I have too many people who care about me. I have too many people who love me. There's too many people in my life who would have told me, girl, get your head out the clouds. Like, it's not that serious. There are other fish in the sea, literally. It's okay. I guess at the time I just didn't want to hear it. And again, also my biological clock was ticking. It was so loud. It was so loud. It was like I couldn't think straight, y'all. It's like the weirdest thing. If anybody has experienced that, chime in and let me know below that I'm not crazy, right? Because I couldn't think straight, and I didn't want to be hurt, and I didn't want to go through this situation. But at the same time, I was like, how do I get out of this mess and still get what I want? So it was just crazy. It was just a crazy time. And that's the thing too. Another thing I learned, I'm gonna pause real quick and take a little different spin. I grew up in a church. I can't say that I'm overly religious or whatever that means. I pray often. I don't read the Bible. I'll admit that. But I have a relationship with God, and I always have. When I moved to Dallas, I found a good church. I found a place that I could connect to and I could get my spirit fed. When I met him, I stopped going to church. And in hindsight, that was probably the downfall. That probably was a good indicator that this is gonna go sideways. It was another red flag that I ignored. He didn't stop me from going to church, but he definitely didn't go to church with me. And he had a different opinion about church. He had a different idea about God. And I told y'all, this guy is like a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, I definitely didn't know that right away either. But it came out eventually. And by the time it came out, we were already in Houston, and I already felt like I was knee deep in some bullshit. So it kind of didn't matter. But that was something that was probably a red flag in the beginning that I just completely ignored. The thing that's crazy is, though, when I met him, he told me he believed in God. Like, he was like, I think that's pretty dope that you go to church. I would love to go with you sometime. So that's another thing too. And let me know if y'all have experienced this, but I definitely feel like this guy sent his representative. And I met somebody else than the person that I was in a relationship with. So that was crazy. And the whole time I felt like, in the beginning anyway, I was 100% myself. After a while, I lost myself and I stopped caring about a lot of things. I stopped doing things that I cared about. I stopped expressing my true feelings about things because we would just get into arguments over dumb stuff. Or again, his thought process was like way off base. It was like completely different than where I was at. And sometimes just didn't want to put the energy into having an argument over something that was like crazy. But back to keeping secrets. It wasn't really my intention in the beginning to not tell what was going on. I think in the beginning, I just felt like it's my relationship. I'm not really sure what I want to do with this thing yet. And I'd rather keep some things to myself because I just always felt like I don't want to share everything with everybody. And then you hold me accountable to that. I didn't know what I was doing at the time with it. Now, once I got into the relationship, I was embarrassed about sharing what was going on. I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to judge me and make me feel worse than I already felt about being in this terrible predicament, right? At times I felt like it was a nightmare, like I was a zombie towards the end. And I just didn't recognize myself. I didn't know myself. I didn't know which way was up or down. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I literally would just get up and go to work, come home, get through the last couple hours of the evening and go to bed and start over again. I mean, we had some fun times in there somewhere. We hung out, you know. But here's the thing too. Those 3 incidences that happened in the very beginning, one of them I mentioned, he threw some food at me in the car. This was in the very beginning. That happened, and we ended up going home, and I dropped him off and I left. I just drove, and I would do that often. We would get into it and I would leave and I would drive around trying to just clear my head and figure out what to do. But we pretty much were living together like right away also, and everything was in my name, but it was like, I think I kind of felt like I opened my door to the devil and I don't know how to get him out now quietly, because that was the thing. Remember, I just didn't want to tell nobody. But I remember like driving around and just thinking about what just happened. Like, what is going on here? You know, how did we even get here? And I remember going to the car wash and cleaning my car up and just like disappearing for a little while. Well, of course he was blowing me up, right? Of course he wanted to talk about it. Of course he wanted to apologize. Eventually I went back home because it was my house. It was my house. So I went back home. We talked about it. He was like super apologetic and really convinced me that he never did nothing like that before. That's a red flag. So anybody who's in this situation, if you dealing with somebody who's telling you he's never done this to anybody before, that's a lie. I'm here to tell you that's a whole lie. I didn't know until I got out of the situation that he done this before. His sister told me he did this to his ex, and I'm sure there were others before me, right? But if you think about it, people don't just turn into ugly. They just don't get that way overnight. He didn't just turn into that person when I met him. That was always in him. It just didn't come out in the beginning. Like I said, I think he sent his representative. So he was apologetic and, you know, really convinced me, probably gaslighting. I mean, to be honest, which I didn't know at the time, but he really convinced me that I did something wrong, and he obviously just couldn't control his temper. It got away from him. He's never done anything like that before, but, oh, I just want to be with you. Let me make it up to you. So I let it ride. But what I want to say about that is there were several months that went by before anything happened again. Like maybe 6 or 7. I mean, it was like a long time before anything happened again. Now, we argued, we got into it about, you know, different things because, you know, like I said, there in the beginning, when he broke up with me, he went back to his ex. So there were other things, right? But the physical, it was months before anything else happened. And the first time that he wrapped his hands around my neck, I was in a bath towel. I don't really want to get into that one today because this ain't that. No, I don't want to really get into that one today. I'm going to save that experience for another day. But I was in a bath towel, and that was another incident where after the fact, he really made me feel like I did something. Like and I know I didn't, right? But he had my brain thinking that, like, I was questioning myself, like, well, did I do that? And, you know, like, did I do this? And that's how we got here. I didn't, and I'm going to tell you, even if I did, I didn't put my hands on him. So there was no reason for him to react the way he did. But long story short, in all of that happening, I didn't have the answers, y'all. And I think that's why I was so afraid to share that with my friends. I think that's why I was so afraid to share it with my family, because I didn't have the answers. I didn't know. I just didn't understand why it was happening to me, but I also didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, like I said, I felt like I invited the devil into my house, and I thought I could figure out how to get him out by myself. It didn't work. I needed help getting him out, and it's okay. Now I know it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to reach out to your support. That's what they're there for. There are people who love you. There are people who care about you. There are people who support you and will help you at your worst time. And no matter what you got going on personally, where you think they're going to judge you, they're going to look at you different, they're going to point the finger, they're going to blame you for getting yourself in this situation. They're not. And let me tell you something. Even if they're thinking that to themselves, people who really love you will never go there with you. They'll never cross that line with you. They just going to be there and show up and do what they need to do to help you out of that situation. So I guess the whole point of today is just to say, I feel bad for keeping that from my family and friends. I know why I did it now. In hindsight, I know why I did it. And to be honest, like, I really feel like even if I would have told them at the time, I still had to get to a point where I had enough. I had to get to a point to make the decision on my own that this is not what I want. And I didn't really take action until I did. I wish it wouldn't have took me so long. Maybe things would have been different if I would have spoke up a little sooner. I cannot go back. I can't go back. I can't take it back. I can't do it differently. But what I can promise is that going forward, I'm not keeping those kind of secrets again. It hurt me to do it, but I'm realizing that it's hurting my family and my friends that I kept those secrets too. I also felt like it was important to kind of talk about that today, because I realized that as I'm telling my story, there are things that I haven't shared with anybody. And the first time my loved ones are hearing it is online. So I love you guys. I thank you so much for encouraging me to keep moving forward. I thank you so much for encouraging me to continue telling my story. I thank you so much for supporting me, for loving me through all of this. Really for loving me before, during, and after. And even though you may not have directly helped me at the time because I didn't speak up and tell you I needed help, y'all helped me in ways that you can't even imagine. You cannot even imagine. You guys were a light for me in a time where I was in a really dark place. So I want to say, if you are someone who is going through a situation right now, look around you. Think about the people who are closest to you that love you. You may have isolated yourself from them because of the situation that you're in, but they are there to help you. And I guarantee you, when you're ready to get out, they will be right there to help you. I guarantee you. If you don't have somebody like that, let me tell you something. There are plenty of agencies. There's a national platform for people who are in your situation. And all you have to do is make a phone call. All you have to do is get online. All you have to do is take that first step and reach out. And there are people who will help you. If you are someone who's not in this situation, but you may be fearful that you are close to someone who is, and they're just not sharing that with you, all I can say is continue to love that person. Continue to check on your friends and check on your strong friends. And just know and understand that even though they may not be willing to share what's going on with them in the moment, it's not personal. It's something that they're dealing with, and they just haven't figured out how to get their strength to open up, to speak out. But just be there for them when they're ready. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in today. Thank you as always for being a support to me. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sending me messages. Thank you for uplifting me. Thank you for just being there for me. It is so hard. It's so hard to get online and spill my guts about the most personal things that have happened to me in my life. The worst things that have happened to me in my life. But it really is therapeutic. And the feedback that I'm getting from you guys is just helping me to gain my strength to continue to become stronger and stronger and stronger every day. So I appreciate y'all. Before I end, I do want to ask, did y'all check out that eclipse the other day? Oh my God, wasn't it so amazing? I hope y'all had a chance to see that. I'm telling you, that was like a once in a lifetime experience. It was so surreal. Y'all, I had to work and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to step away to see it. But let me tell you something. I'm so glad that I found the time. I'm so glad that I was able to make the time to step away and just experience something so beautiful. So it was amazing. I hope y'all got to see it. I'm going to tell y'all just a sidebar. Had I been with my ex, I would have missed the whole thing. He would have convinced me that something was wrong or crazy about it. It's not real. It's not that important. It's whatever. Or he would have did something crazy and had me involved in something where I wasn't available at the time that it was happening. So I'd have missed the whole thing. So I hope y'all aren't with someone who's like that now. And if you are, that's another reason for me to tell you, get the out, get out, get out, get out now. You guys are missing out on life. There are so many beautiful things happening around us all the time. So I don't want y'all to miss that. I don't want you to block your blessings. I don't want you to miss out on this life that God created for us to enjoy. So on that note, for real, I'm out of here, guys. I love y'all. I thank y'all. I will see y'all next time.